The following is an encore presentation of stories from the Dooralong Transformation Centre. We are joined this morning by Ty. Ty's one of the guests down at Dooralong, the Transformation Centre there, run by the Salvo. So good morning to you, Ty.
Good morning, mate.
So, where to begin, really? I know a little bit about Ty's story, but you don't know anything about Ty's story. So I think I'll get him to explain a little bit about what's happened for him and what's led him to be at Dooralong. Perhaps if we turn the clocks back, Ty, and go back to your early sort of teenage years, growing up. I know you were. Where were you born? It was quite local, wasn't it?
I was born in Maitland, at Maitland Hospital. So
yeah, not too far away.
Yeah.
So what sort of childhood did you have? Good, happy childhood?
Yeah, it was a good childhood. I just when I found myself growing up in high school and that, I started hanging out with the wrong crowd and
And that's where the drugs entered your life?
Yeah.
Was it sort of peer pressure, or did you just want to be in with the right people, that sort of thing?
Yeah, I just wanted to be in with the right people and,
hang out with a cool crowd.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and it's so prevalent in schools as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a lot older than you. When I was growing up, there just wasn't the opportunity, but now it's there and it presents itself. It's like alcohol, it's there, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I think most people go through an experimental age, but did you realise when you first took it that this could lead to an addiction?
No, at the time I was just doing it for fun and
Yeah. So it was a fun teenage thing to do.
Yeah.
Made you feel good.
Yep.
Yeah. And so you stayed at school. You then left school. What happens when you leave school? What sort of jobs did you go for? That type of thing.
Yeah. When I left school, I got expelled at the start of year 10.
Yeah.
I then was living with my father.
Yeah.
And he ended up moving to Mudgee and left me in Maitland. So.
And how old were you at this time?
I was 17.
That would have been hard.
Yeah.
So, find yourself living on your own at the age of 17.
Yeah.
Have to grow up really quick.
Yeah. So I moved in with mates, and that's when my using got worse because I had nothing to do all day. In the long run, I did end up getting a job, but was still using through work and.
And there was nobody in your life, sort of, old, like uncles or your mum or dad. There's nobody there to tell you don't do this or don't do that. No good advice.
My mum and my uncle and all that, they were still there for me, but I kind of, because deep down I knew I was doing the wrong thing, but I kind of shut them out and didn't want to disappoint them, and
you felt a bit sort of ashamed of what you were doing.
Yeah,
I can understand that. So you didn't want to hurt your uncle or let them see what you were doing, so you sort of put some distance between yourselves and them.
Yeah.
So you're a young 17-year-old, you're living in Maitland with mates. Some would sort of look at that lifestyle and go, wow, I could, that sounds really good, but for you it had bad consequences.
Yeah.
So it led to further drug use? Yeah,
further drug use, and then slowly started getting into selling cannabis, and started getting in trouble, and
to be really nosy, Ty, do you mind if we asked why you were selling the drugs rather than just using them?
Yeah, I was selling them to support my habit, because I was smoking a lot of weed, and
it was expensive. You didn't have a job at this time.
It was an easy way, really.
So what would a typical day look like for you at that age, 17, 18? What time would you get up in the morning? What did you do all day?
I can't even remember. I know I used to just sit around and do what I want, really. Smoke lots of cannabis and just do what I wanted every day. And
were you happy?
Deep down, no, I wasn't, but I kept telling myself that I was, and
trying to convince yourself.
Yep.
Sounds like there's no purpose in that life. There's no meaning to that life.
Nah, there's not.
No.
It's just if you want to end up in like jail and stuff like that, that's the road.
So you're just drifting, really, aren't you? You're not actually in control of your life.
Yeah, nah.
You're just caught up on the tide.
Yep.
Yeah. So you look back at those late teens, early 20s years as wasted?
Not really wasted, just I feel like I could have done something better for myself, and
so that makes you feel sort of angry and frustrated that you could have done something. Really. Yeah. Okay, so now you're a young sort of, well, a man now, of course, in your sort of late teens, early 20s. You're taking drugs, you're using a lot, you say?
Yeah, I was using a lot of cannabis at the time.
And you're sort of selling stuff to support that habit.
Yep.
And you mentioned just there, and we don't want to pry too deeply, so we will respect the boundaries that you have, but you mentioned the law and things like that, so you got into trouble, did you? Yeah,
I started like selling cannabis. I ended up getting raided by the police, and that's when it hit home for me that I was addicted, and life was not going the way I wanted it, so that's when I first went to Dooralong.
That's right, because for listeners who don't know, Ty has been there. This is your second time around, isn't it?
Yep.
Yeah. So you were raided by the police, you're in trouble with the law. Was it the police or the authorities that suggested Dooralong to you?
It was actually probation and parole. They said to me, "Oh, look, I might have a problem." And
did you believe them?
Yeah, I sort of did, because like I haven't really been in trouble with the law until up to now, and that's when I rang around a couple of rehabs and that, and I found Dooralong, and they accepted me, so I went out there.
So it was a bit of a wake-up call, the police raiding you?
Yeah, it was a big wake-up call, It
would have been quite a scary sort of moment for you. And that was when reality sort of crept in and said, you've got to do something with your life, Ty. And we're talking to Ty from the Dooralong Transformation Centre. Just before that music break, Ty was telling us about his journey into drugs, and the wake-up call for him was being raided by the police. That's right, isn't it, Ty? Yeah, you'd never been in trouble with the law at all before, and to have the police come round, raid, and I think you said you lost your house, it would have been a massive wake-up call.
Yeah, it was,
And you learned that lesson because it was that which prompted you to sort of look at various rehabs and rehabilitation centres. You'd never sought rehab before?
No, this is the first time I've heard about it. I didn't know really what to expect.
So, in a funny sort of way, although it must have been a scary situation, that raid by the police is one of those moments where your life changed. You realise that, hang on, I've got an issue here. So you're looking for rehabilitation centres. How do you go about that? Yellow Pages or?
I used Google actually. And that just bring up the whole list of ones that are around me.
And so you just ring them up?
Just ring them up and see if there's any beds available, and
and Dooralong said yes.
Dooralong did an assessment, and how do they? Is that a phone assessment that they do? You do a phone assessment, and they'll ring you back or something, and you'll get a date. And
so how did you feel when they said, we've got a bed and you're suitable, and here's the date? You feel good?
I felt good, but I was also a bit nervous, anxious, and just didn't really know what to expect, and
So you go along to Dooralong. What was it like for that first few days then? Like most of us, we wouldn't have any idea as to what was going to happen. It must have been quite sort of an anxious time.
It was. It was a bit daunting, so to say. but after a couple of weeks of being there, you sort of get to know what the go is. And
even though it is daunting, I suppose that's sort of offset a little bit because it's just such a beautiful place to be.
Yeah, it is beautiful out there. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's really anxiety making, but you're in the best place, really, aren't you?
Yeah,
beautiful place.
Yeah, in the best place. Yeah.
Yeah. So we're still on this first sort of visit to Dooralong. You do your group work and all the therapy. How long were you there for the first time round?
The first time I was there for 6 to 7 months, roughly.
Yeah, which isn't long. Some of the guys and girls that we've talked to, they graduate after 10, 11, 12 months. So 6 months is fairly short.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you graduated?
Yeah.
Yeah. And what were you thinking when you left Dooralong? You thought, I've beaten this?
Yeah, I did actually. Yeah, I thought I've beaten it, but
and life was looking good, I guess, at that stage.
Yeah, life was looking good. Like, I managed to stay clean for a year.
Did you have somewhere to live and a job or support?
I had support from my family.
Yeah.
I didn't have no work at the time.
Yeah.
Like, I was staying with mates and.
Yeah. Was that a problem, staying with mates? Were those mates clean or?
Yeah.
So you're staying with mates, and but you haven't got a job, and you were clean for how long?
Roughly a year. Yeah.
It's a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was doing well.
You're doing well. Rather begs the next question: what went wrong for you, Tom?
Just a whole lot of stress. I felt like I couldn't cope no more. Like, I wasn't getting work.
So that early hope that you had that all was going to be well, after 12 months and you still haven't found a job, it's starting to sort of overwhelm you again.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what happened?
Well, that whole year I was clean. I was doing meetings, like NA meetings.
Yeah.
And then I just slowly drifted away from them because I slowly started using again.
Yeah.
And
for our listeners who don't get that, NA, what does NA stand for?
Narcotics Anonymous.
Yeah. So it's like AA, but it's for drug takers.
Yeah.
And they have weekly meetings all over the place, including here on the coast, don't they?
Yeah.
So you were going regularly during that 12 months, and then started to drift away.
Yeah, started to drift away, and just was really disappointed in myself. Really, even though. Like with me getting a job, it was nothing to. It was out of my control. Really.
Exactly. It's not your fault.
Yeah, I just still felt a bit disappointed, and
So you feel that you're perhaps letting people down, letting yourself down, and
more letting myself down.
Letting yourself down.
Yeah.
And so slipping into almost a depression, I would think, of that.
Yeah.
Yep. And then drugs were available still?
Yeah, they were available.
Can you remember when after those 12 months clean, can you remember the first time you used?
Yeah, I can remember, but this time it wasn't just cannabis, it was ice as well. So
you've stepped it up a gear?
Yeah. Just got, like they say, usually when you relapse you usually pick up where you left off, or it gets worse, and that's exactly what happened.
So you'd never taken ice before, it had always been cannabis, and now ice. We hear so much in the press and on the TV and read in the newspapers of how destructive ice and how addictive it can become. Is that your experience of it?
Yeah, it's very addictive. And destructive. Like in my head, I was telling myself that everything was alright. I couldn't see everything falling apart for me, and I just kept telling myself that.
But around you, everything was just falling to pieces.
It was going to crap. So.
And again, we've had guys tell us it takes quite a toll on your body, because does it keep you awake for a long, long time? And
keeps you awake. Longest I was awake for was 5 nights.
5 nights?
Yeah.
Sort of 5 nights without any sleep whatsoever?
Yeah.
And then you just crash, I guess?
Yeah, you just crash. And
yeah. Do you have any recollection of what you were doing during that time?
Yeah, I do have some memories of it.
But it's all a bit vague.
Yeah, it's a bit vague. Like,
yeah.
Sometimes I remember I did this and did that,
and have people around you sort of noticed that you had stepped up a gear from cannabis to ice, and like sort of taking you to one side and saying, "Ty, this is bad."
Yeah. People notice.
Yeah.
Really, in my they could tell because of my physical appearance. I lost heaps of weight, big black bags under my eyes.
Circles under your eyes.
Yeah. And,
again, we see those pictures in the paper of people before and after they started using ice, but it's not a scare campaign. It's really true, isn't it?
Yeah, it's true.
That you lose weight and your skin and your physical appearance just goes. Whoa.
Everything I've seen in the papers and on the headlines and they're telling the truth. It really does destroy your life. And
and it can make people violent.
Yeah, it can. Yeah.
Yeah. Was that something you experienced, or?
Yes. Yeah, I was pretty violent.
Which would sort of frighten yourself, I would think.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's getting worse, much worse. Before it was just cannabis. You've been clean for 12 months, but now it's graduated into ice. Again, what was the trigger for you to pick up the phone and sort of seek out Dooralong again?
Well, once again, I got in trouble with the law. And I just knew, I ended up in jail this time.
Yeah.
And I was sitting in jail, and I don't know, it was just, I don't know what it was. It just, something was telling me to give Dooralong a call again to put my life back on track like it did the first time.
Yeah. To reach out and...
to reach out and ask for help.
Yeah. That must have taken a lot of courage, because you'd have... part of you must be thinking, if I ring Dooralong, I'm just admitting I'm a failure. I've let them down and let myself down, and I've blown it.
Yeah, a little bit of my head was telling me that I've let them down, I've let myself down. But then another part of my head was telling me that's the place to be to get my life back on order and on the straight and narrow.
Great. Yeah, good. And you've joined us again as we continue our conversation with Ty. We left off just before that music break with Ty having been to Dooralong the first time round, but he came out and he went back to live with mates, and he was clean for 12 months, but then things fell apart a bit, and he stepped it up a gear and started taking ice, and got in trouble with the law again. And in the depths of that, you realise that you're just going to have to do something, and you're going to have to go back to Dooralong.
Yeah.
So you go back to Dooralong a second time. How is it different for you? How would you describe it the second time round?
The second time around, I know what I've got to do this time. I've got to be 100% honest with myself. And just do the suggested things and keep doing them. Yeah.
And do you feel in your own heart that this is going better than it did the first time around?
Yeah.
So you're doing all the group works in the morning and all the rest of it?
Yeah.
And how long have you been there now?
I've been there now for, I think, a bit over 3 months.
3 months?
Yeah.
And what hopes do you have for the future, Ty? Obviously to graduate from Dooralong, but beyond that?
I'd hope to get a job.
Yeah.
And
what's your line of business? What do you do?
Well, I've got certificates in mechanics, servicing cars and all that stuff.
Right. So you got all the qualifications as a car mechanic?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just a job that you need.
Yeah.
Well, if anybody's listening that owns a garage around the Maitland or the Central Coast area, give us a ring now. So, yeah, a job would be great. You wouldn't go back to live with mates?
No. I'll probably go stay with me mother and
Yeah. So go back to mum. Mum lives locally, does she?
Yeah, she lives in Maitland as well.
Yeah. So no going back to mates. This time you're going to go back to mum, who's going to sort of look after you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, one thing we haven't talked about this time, Ty, is that Dooralong, of course, is run by the Salvation Army. It's obviously a Christian organisation. Did you have much of a church background before you went to Dooralong?
No, I didn't. Only from the first time at Dooralong.
All right. Yeah. And how's that going for you? Because I think it sometimes comes as a bit of surprise to the guys that they sometimes that they are expected to go to the worship night on a Wednesday.
Yeah,
chapel night.
It's good. I like it.
You like it? Yeah.
Like when I first got there this second time around, I handed everything over to God.
Yeah.
Felt a big, massive weight off my shoulders just to leave, and
wow.
I felt relieved.
Yeah. And this was during your second stay here at Dooralong. Yeah. So you just said to God, "Oh, look, I can't deal with this. You have a go."
Yep.
Yeah. And so you go to the chapel. Do you go to church?
Yeah, I go to church Sundays.
Yeah.
At Tuggerah Lakes.
Tuggerah Lakes.
Yeah.
It's a good church, is it?
Yeah, it's a great church.
Yeah, you enjoy that.
Yep.
And so when you leave Dooralong, you will still be looking for a church family to plug yourself into.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So it's made quite a big difference this second time round, hasn't it?
Yeah, they're all positive and good people, and that's what I want to surround myself in. So
yeah. I don't know if you're anything like me, but I only really became a Christian in the late 90s, quite an old age sort of thing. And one thing that really surprised me is I really expected Christians to be quite judgmental and sort of wagging a finger and telling me where I'd gone wrong and what I must do and mustn't do, and if I didn't obey their rules I was going to burn in hell. But it wasn't like that at all. I was just overwhelmed by their lack of judgment and their openness and their genuine love and concern. I don't know, is that how you found it as well?
Yeah, they always welcome you with big wide open arms. They're not judgmental at all.
No, doesn't matter what you've done, they'll just meet you wherever you are. Yeah. So how would you describe your life at the moment? Is it hopeful for the future?
Yeah, very hopeful.
It's getting a job, going back to live with mum and taking it very slowly from there. Yeah. Well, thanks so much for coming in today, Ty, being so open and honest with us about that addiction that you've had and your hopes for the future. We really hope that one day when we're booking a car in to be serviced, we hope that we'll see you there. Sort of, you've got your qualifications. All you need now is that job. That would be great. So take our good wishes back to Dooralong for all the guys there, the people that are sort of doing the program like you and all the staff, Craig and the rest of them. But thanks for coming in, and we just pray God's continued sort of sharing of the problems with you.
Thank you.
The following is an encore presentation of stories from the Dooralong Transformation Centre.